Hello, welcome to PaynePoints of Interest with Sarah Harbuck. My co-host is the lovely Kristen Ellis, and we want to tell the stories of people and their businesses and the journey that they're on. Our purpose here at PaynePoints is to gather a new perspective on starting, growing, maturing, and maintaining businesses of all sizes. So grab your coffee and sit back and join us as we start the discussion. All right. Well, today we have Steve Ellis. Hello, Steve.
Hello.
And Ellis may sound familiar because Kristen and Steve are married. Recently, Steve started his own business, Ellis Plumbing. He's been in the plumbing industry for his
20
whole
years. Yeah.
adult life, basically. So why don't you give us a little brief bio of your journey from didn't know anything to master plumber?
Needed a job. That was, and it was a trade. So, went to a few different universities and discovered that was not for me and needed a job. So I started off, say, 2001 with a shovel at $6 an hour. So I guess sub-modern minimum wage just to dig
Well, back
ditches.
then, I think that
Yeah.
probably was minimum wage.
Yeah.
wasn't
No,
it?
it was $5.15.
Oh, so
I
just
think.
a little bit
A
over.
little bit over, yeah. It was pretty
Ooh.
The
good.
big bucks.
Fancy.
And then just worked, and then I kind of, you don't typically think of plumbing as like a trade that most aspire to, but I found it was really honest. Like, you get done with a day of work and you saw what you did and you saw what you provided, and I just kind of stuck to it. And so 20 years later, I do a little bit more than digging ditches, and and that's it. Yeah.
All right.
Okay. So
Yeah.
I guess that kind of answers our first question as far as how did you get into it? You know, did it
Yeah.
fall into your lap, or it was just like
Oh no, it fell into
You-
my lap. I mean, nepotism is the answer.
So
I
you worked for a family business.
started working for my uncle.
Yeah.
And then that was the foot in the door. But like most places, all that does is get you in. So you still have to
You still have to work from the ground
have
up.
a reason to be there or
Yeah.
to continue to be
with
there.
with plumbing or electricians or any of that stuff, you have a process,
any,
right?
any
that you
trade.
go
There's
through?
certain.
Right. It's very hard to talk your way out of what you've done in a trade. Like, it's very visual. Like,
Yeah.
that's kind of what I mean by honest work. Either you did it or you didn't, and it's obvious. It's working or it's not. The day is done or it's not.
It's not arbitrary.
Right.
There's a definitive.
Yeah.
This pipe is fixed, or
is
nope, this pipe's
success-
still leaking.
Yeah.
Right.
This is
Success
installed
or
or it is not
failure.
installed. And then it didn't work, here for family the whole time. I also spent several years in Houston, several years in Nacogdoches at other companies. So I moved around and got some experience from a bunch of different companies and other workers and other plumbers, and then back to Lufkin. And then last year in September started
August.
September.
Oh.
I incorporated September 20th.
Ah, there
So-
you go.
But you kind of started a little before that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then that's the beginning of Ellis Plumbing.
Do you find that moving around to the different companies kind of helped teach you some things in each location, every business you went to work for?
Very much. I think a lot of every trade is geographic, like it's specific to where you are and how things are done, and being able to go to a few different places and observe different people from different backgrounds and different learning, take little pieces from everybody you've worked with, and then make it your own in your own place.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, and as far as deciding how you wanted to run your business, I know that because you had worked for several different companies and they were all run differently. For instance,
Right.
the one in Houston was commission based.
Right.
That really did a lot to show you how you wanted to set up your business. So maybe tell us a little bit about that.
Oh yeah, I mean that's incentive is the biggest motivator in a free market. If no matter what you do, you're going to get paid the same. People are going to
You're
give
going
you
to do the
their-
bare minimum.
Yeah, if you're paying someone by the hour, in my opinion, they're going to give you just enough to validate that pay by the hour, and you're going to pay them just enough to keep them.
Yeah.
And so, if you want someone to improve, then you have to give them, an incentive. So, do this and you get this. Don't do this, you don't do this, and it gets you moving. So that's definitely a goal. Is that everyone involved with Ellis Plumbing has an active stake in it. If they're not just there for a paycheck, they're there for a little bit more.
So taking a little bit of ownership in a way.
Exactly.
And you feel like that philosophy is going to, in the businesses you've worked with where that was a standard practice, the quality of work was maybe better?
Well, yeah, it literally had your name on it. You want people calling and asking for you. You want
Specifically.
to set up jobs for you. You know,
Okay.
you know that there is, no matter what you do, you're going to get the same pay every week is nice and reassuring to some, but it's also kind of like
Complacency.
complete and
Painless.
daunting. Like no matter what I do, maybe I'll get an extra dollar.
Yeah.
You know, but if you can work and work hard and then directly see a result for that week, you know, and then maybe another week, you know, you don't want to take on that much. You've got something you need to do. You take it off, you know, and you work with it. A little bit of ownership in what goes along with a little bit of ownership in what you do. I feel like motivates people to put more into it than they would otherwise.
Take more pride in their work.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think that's something that's lost too with corporate America is that, you know, most people are just coming in and punching a time card, doing
Yeah.
what they have to do and go home. And there's nothing wrong with that. But when you, as a small business owner, you want to get your business going and you want to get it off the ground and you want to obviously make a living
Right.
doing this, you know, you've got to figure out a different way to motivate and incentivize people to do a good job.
Right.
Because it's really hard to find people, I mean,
Yeah.
to work for you and do a good job.
Right.
I think we've all experienced that at some point in our businesses. So, yeah, anyway, well, that's good.
So what would, you know, for anybody else that is listening that might be considering starting their own business, how did you start? What was your first step in getting your business started?
Google.
Okay.
Google.
Yeah.
The Google University should be a thing. We should just
Right.
all have some sort of like associate's degree in Google. Yes? I think that's a thing
And
we should
some
do.
people are so much better at it than others. He, for instance, is really good at finding things. I'm like, I need to find this. Do it for me.
You can go down the rabbit trail, huh?
Yes.
A lot of, I think, what of the scary part of starting a business when it comes to like paperwork and filings and getting stuff set up, I think it's left murky to the general public on purpose. I don't think it's very simple. It's finding the right forms, filing them, and doing your paperwork. It's very, very simple. But there's this air of mystery there to it because
The information's not readily available on some, here's how you start a business, A, B, C, D,
Yeah.
you know?
and when it appears to be that readily available, when you get to the last paragraph, it's pay us X amount of money and we'll do it for you. And we're still not going to tell you exactly what it is we do.
Right.
Right.
And I mean, I think that's by design. And I mean, you don't want it so simple that anyone can start with just cause. Like there needs to be that level of motivation that I am willing to seek out what needs to be done in order to get it done.
You have to work for it a little bit.
Yeah.
Right.
It
No
makes you
one's-
appreciate it a
No one's
little
going to
more.
give it to you just for free.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So Google.
Yeah, Google.
Very powerful
There are
tool.
so many tools nowadays from like LegalZoom and et cetera. Like there's just a multitude of ways to handle this. Where in the past it was I have to find a lawyer. That's the only way I knew I
So
could
from
start.
the get-go, you didn't just do like a sole proprietorship. You've incorporated and,
Yep.
well, I mean, as a trade business, I would imagine you have to have certain types of insurances and
There are
bonds
state
and
requirements,
licenses and
right, and you find these little loopholes where I have to have a certain amount of insurance to operate the business. However, the insurance won't insure an individual; they insure an entity,
Ugh.
and then you've got to be an entity in order to get
Yes.
a license. So you find this little circle, and then you just got to figure out where do I start? Where do I push myself in the middle of that circle and start going?
Did you talk to anybody else in your industry or just use
No,
Google as your
luckily,
kind
I had a little background from administrative work. For the last several years, I worked for another plumbing company here in town on the administrative side, so I had a little bit of a
You had a head start a little bit there.
But I knew the requirements. It's just where do I start?
Yeah.
Google told me where to start.
Yes, Google.
There
Thank
you
you,
go.
Google. There you go.
It's a great tool. There's a lot of great tools online. Well, speaking of Googling and all that fun stuff, did you do a lot of planning? Did you have a business plan? Did you
No.
talk to a market? Nope. You just,
Nope.
You're like
just
my
jump-
husband Ben. You just kind of, I'm just gonna do it. I'm just gonna throw it together
Jump
and do
right
it.
in.
I mean, paralysis by analysis is a real thing. Like, yes, planning is important, and most should probably do more than I did. But at the same time, you can over-plan yourself into
Yeah.
inaction.
Well, and you and Ben both have a sort of personality that's just like, I've decided to do this. I'm gonna go do it, and then that
Figure it out
for
as you
you
go.
is the motivating part
Well, yeah,
to get you
you've-
going.
It's the cliff you've jumped off. Like,
Right.
you have to fly now.
Now,
There
yeah.
is no choice.
Yeah, there's no parachute. You gotta
Yeah.
you gotta build one on the way down.
Right. Right.
Oh, that's funny.
And honestly, that's business in a nutshell. Is you're constantly, in my opinion, you're constantly stepping off a cliff and you're finding a way to not hit so hard on the ground.
Yeah.
And you pull it off right, then you fly higher than you were on the cliff when you first took your first step. But It takes that step. Everything you do that's worth it is going to take that step.
I mean, some people go through this whole process of a very elaborate business plan, marketing strategies. They have these notebooks full of notes and ideas and things they're going to do. And I think those are all very valid things, but they don't always lend themselves to every personality type.
Right.
true.
And so
You
for
have to-
some people,
Yeah, you
they
have
just
kinda
have to
know
do
yourself,
And
right?
it depends on your goals too. Like if I'm a lender and I'm expecting someone to come in and put down a case on why I need to lend them a certain amount of money to start a business,
wanna see a plan.
I want to see that plan.
it. Yeah,
you know?
sure.
I started off in a trade where it was the very little marketing is involved. They just need to know my name.
Word of
but
mouth.
what the business does is in the name.
Yeah.
There's no, let me explain to you the services we can provide.
Right.
If you
Right.
have plumbing issues or you need new plumbing installed, we can do it. So
Right.
it's a built-in market that's always going to be there.
Right. Everybody
Yeah.
poops, so
Yeah.
you're gonna
Showers,
be
everybody-
you're
yeah.
gonna be in business for a
You're
very long
always
time.
gonna
Right.
always gonna need a plumber. Yep.
Yeah.
Oh goodness. Okay.
What would you say have been some of your biggest struggles or obstacles in starting this whole process? And
Well, with any small business, it's how do you get the general public to go to you when they're used to someone else, or how do you get your name in front of people who have never had a need? Like a lot of plumbers, when you get or any trade, electrician, when you get a call from someone, whether it be for a new build or a repair, they've never been in that boat before. Like they've never had to do it. So how do you get your name in front of them?
right.
And then it's how do you multitask, doing the actual work and doing the work behind the work, all the paperwork and your books and keeping that stuff together and balancing that with family and the
Is
rest
it
of
just
your
you
times.
right now?
Oh,
Do you-
100% me. Yeah.
Yeah, we're gonna have to fix that.
Oh, yeah.
That's the goal.
That is the goal.
I mean, most small business owners start out and it's just solely them, and the trick there is to try to delegate out as quickly as possible so that you don't burn out.
Right.
Because if you're handling the administrative side and the mechanical side
Right.
and the marketing side and all the sides,
Yeah.
you eventually just want to dig
And-
yourself a hole and
Now,
crawl in it.
PaynePoints did help him get started a little bit.
Yeah.
They built you your website
Right.
and,
Mhm.
and helped with some of the marketing.
And by
things
design,
like
I'm
that.
as small as possible now because I have, working in the different places like we had mentioned earlier, different places, I've seen so many people start off and burn out by trying to go too big and too bright too fast. They take on as much as possible. They take on a massive amount of debt, a large payroll, and they go right out the gate. And some are successful, and some are successful for a short period of time, and they burn really bright, and it's too much. And any successful business has a slow and steady progression. If you see a spike in revenue or business, then be prepared for a relative drop.
You
And
later on.
I would much rather the slow and steady progress of incremental growth
Yeah.
over,
A big
let's-
gigantic windfall all at one time.
right.
I mean, I know a lot of struggles for a lot of small businesses getting the funding to get started and start. What you're talking about, taking on too much too soon. And if you take on all this debt, then you have this huge extra added weight on your shoulders to
Right.
maintain a certain level of business. So I think it is a little smarter to kind of start out small with as little overhead as possible, and then continue to grow and accommodate your needs as you go. And that can be a real hard balance that a lot of people try to find, and that's one of the things that, Ben and I have talked about for future business endeavors is let's not make some of the same mistakes we made the first couple of times around. Let's not spend as much money, let's allocate it properly or more strategically, and, overcoming that financial hurdle can be, one of the bigger things, finding funding and then keeping a steady stream of income that's steadily growing over time rather
Right.
than, like you said, let me just have this huge thing right off the
Right.
bat, and then where do you go
Right.
from there?
Yeah.
And
You're not prepared.
The struggle, especially in trades, is how do you handle everything that comes your way if you don't put that much into it? And like a genuine dialogue and relationship with a customer is paramount. It's the number one priority of my business. And at this point, I would much rather say, I'm incapable of getting to that right now. We are just too busy. Please let me help you find somebody else.
Yeah.
In the
And
future,
that goes a long way, actually.
and it's genuine and it's honest. I'm not manipulating them now for their business later. I'm honestly telling you I can't do that right now,
Yeah.
and we're not gonna
Sacrifice quality.
Sacrifice quality to try to take care of the situation. However, I recommend X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
And in the future, please give me a call back. And if they've taken care of you, then that's great for them. But that genuine communication, I think, is missing in just about every business.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. It was always shocking whenever I would tell a client that was asking me for a type of photography I didn't do, and I was like, well, I don't specialize in that. Believe it or not, you
Right.
really would be better served if you talk to,
With
Jane
someone else.
Smith. She's so much better at that than I am, and she'll give you a better product than I would. And I was like, really?
Right.
Like, well, I would want you to have the best you can. I don't do
Right.
newborn photography, but she does, and she does an amazing job. You should hire her.
Yeah.
Things like that.
Yeah.
And people would just be like, what? And I've talked to other business owners like, well, you just gave up business there. I mean, maybe, sure, but they're going to remember that I didn't try to con them
Yeah.
in some
You know,
way
yeah.
and with something that I couldn't do for them
Right.
to the same level of quality, you
Right.
know. So I think that's a missing art in a lot of
Yeah. And that goes
small
to
business.
the word of mouth, advertising too. They're gonna talk to their friends and say, hey, I called this guy and it was really refreshing that he was, they were honest,
Honest.
and said
Yeah.
said they couldn't handle it, but gave me a good recommendation and I got taken care of and it was great. It's
Well, my dad sings your praises, so he was like, "Hey, didn't you say a friend of yours started a plumbing business? I've got some plumbing stuff I need taken care of." So I gave him your number, and there you go. So I feel like with stuff like that, definitely marketing. You don't really need a marketing strategy because you can just eventually build your business up just by word of mouth. With
Back to there's so many online tools now. I mean, an hour or two a week with Google and Facebook.
Yeah.
And you can put your name in front of a lot of places and people that you never could before,
Right.
Yeah.
for a fraction of the cost that it used to be.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's traditional advertising is sort of not archaic, but it's definitely changed, and businesses
It
have to
has.
adapt.
Yeah.
in a
Yeah,
different
it's-
way.
It's
So
not as effective as it once was.
Yeah.
'Cause, depending on what demographic you're shooting for, because I never listen to the radio anymore.
I don't either.
Well,
I don't,
the last
I
20,
mean,
20 years will tell you the difference in advertising, specifically in trades. How many jingles for an AC or electrician or plumber have you heard over the years on the radio?
Not recently.
I see no point in it now.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
the vast majority of my advertising is to put my name on your phone.
Yeah.
If you know someone today
Yeah.
who has a need and they don't know where to start, what's their first step?
They
They're
Google
going to get
it.
their phone out.
Yeah.
mm-hmm.
That's the platform everyone needs to
Plumber,
be on.
Lufkin, Texas. That's
Yeah.
what they're going to search.
Yeah.
And then if your name is one of the first ones there, then they're going to. Usually, people pick
It's got
or whatever's higher rated.
It's got to be on the first page or have the
Or it
highest
doesn't
rating,
exist.
or it's not
Yeah.
there at all.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
What would you say? Is there an aspect of this business that has taught you anything about yourself?
or in running a business by yourself.
Right.
I wouldn't say taught me. It's reaffirmed things that I already knew. Every individual is individual, by
Mhm.
default. So you're gonna be confronted by your strengths and weaknesses daily. You just have to understand them and push things one way or the other. You can't, because a business requires this does not mean that's how you have to make yourself. You can invert that and make the business what you need it to be.
Right.
I think a lot of people get caught in a trap that this is how I'm supposed to look, talk, feel, be in order to do this. And why can't you make this sound, talk, feel more like you in reverse? There's a market for people to not accept the expected of a particular genre or field or trade. You can make it yourself and then present it to folks as, well, this is how we do it, this is who I am, and this is the way we're going to work. Let's see if we can work with you.
Well, this is the kind of the age of reinvention in so many ways. So, structuring your business in a sense that's more tailored to you and how you are rather than what society expects, perhaps, or what's just been the norm that people have accepted as the norm.
Right.
I think is a good thing in a lot of ways that businesses can kind of not necessarily follow a formula anymore. They can kind of make it their own.
Right.
Yeah.
Seems
yeah.
more personal that way too.
Yeah.
It does.
yeah.
And it seems honest. Like you're not changing things to an idea of what it's supposed to be. You're changing what it's supposed to be to what it really is.
Yeah. I find that I'm more like drawn to businesses that seem genuine, not that they're trying to fit some sort of cookie cutter mold that they're
Right.
supposed to be in. And so I feel like even with something like a trade that's very basic, you know, running your business in such a way that is appealing and, you know, hey, I can't do it right now, but so and so can.
Right.
You know, that kind of those little things like that sort of change.
Right. Well, and you know, with plumbers in any kind of trade, the market can be kind of oversaturated.
Sometimes, yeah.
But sometimes, and I mean, you're always going to need trades, so it's not necessarily a bad thing, but it can make it difficult for people who are trying to start a business or run a business. Make it a little bit.
Have you run into that at all, Steve? Like the oversaturation issue?
Oh well, yeah. I mean, there's a multitude of people who can handle your plumbing needs, but like I said, that's the struggle: is how do I get them to call me, and us. And I think you start small and you take on what you can and you get your name out there. There's a saturation in everything, but the quality is not the same. Just because a lot of people can do something doesn't mean
They
a
can
lot
do
of
it well.
people can do the right thing.
That's true. I've run into
Yeah,
that on
yeah.
many aspects of all the different businesses that we've run. So
Is there a way that you found to kind of set yourself apart from? This is kind of a running theme we've talked about with a lot of the people we've interviewed. What have you done to kind of try to set yourself apart, trying to find your niche in the market?
A lot of it is superficial. I mean, just the look of the truck, or me, the guy that shows up at your house, and the way that it's not your classic white truck with dirt all over it, and a guy with mud up to his ankles and overalls crawling out of the truck, and scratching his butt and pulling his pants up, saying, "What do you
Plumber's
got?" And back
A
to
belt is a beautiful thing.
Yes.
back to just genuine honesty. Dealing with businesses, it's often you can see that they want you to believe you are important to them, but it's very easy to see through it. It's a lot of the time it's a corporate line. Like you can hear
Yeah.
the marketing, and if I finish a job or a project with someone and by the end of it they don't see that I had a genuine care for their product and what we were doing, then that's a failure, even if they're happy. But I want them to understand that we have a genuine need. Yes, maybe this is what you were looking for, but this is going to serve you better. Maybe it's at less cost to you, but this is what you really need. That's going to be my goal, is that when someone refers or talks about this business, they're talking about the honest, genuine nature of it. That they're not going to shell you for this. They're not going to go the third or fourth mile when the first mile was all that was needed. You know?
Well, and I think I appreciate with any kind of business like this where it's like, well, here's my estimate and there's no hidden cost later. This is what you're going to pay. It's all very
Right.
transparent from the get-go. And, anytime I've had to get any kind of quote or estimate for something like that, I always want to be like, okay, is this everything? Like, is there anything else? Is there more labor that will be added on if the job takes longer than you estimated? What are
Right.
those costs going to
Right.
be? And some businesses have not been as transparent, and so you're kind of like, I don't know if I want to continue
Well,
working with you if
you're-
that's going to be the case.
You're after that repeat business as well. I mean, like we said, you're always going to need a plumber.
Yeah.
Any trade.
Well, it's not just your repeat business;
don't-
it's those
well,
you refer.
Yeah.
And that's
Well,
that's
that
a
too.
form of repeat business too. When we're finished, I want you to talk about me in a positive light to others.
To
Yeah.
your
Maybe
friends, to your
I
family.
did the job so well for you, it's never needed again.
Right.
But you'll have friends who have the same issue.
Yeah.
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 Definitely.
Yeah.
Do you think you have has there been a tool that you've used besides Google to help you run your business?
Oh,
Is it
QuickBooks,
most-
man.
QuickBooks.
QuickBooks is there's nothing but QuickBooks.
Yeah, tracking your funds.
I know there's a multitude of ways to keep your books now too, but in my research and speaking with CPA and et cetera, it's so vast and powerful. You just have to not be afraid of it and get in there and see what you can do. But yeah.
What are your
the
habits with
tool.
that? Do you like every day sit down and update, or
Yeah, I've got it on laptop, apps, just as I go every single day. I drug my feet there for a while, like trying to get caught up with it and do it like sit down in the typical expected sit down in the office. And then I was like, it's 2020.
yeah,
Utilize the apps.
yep.
When as I go, receipt capture, invoicing, payments.
We've talked to a cash flow expert here on PaynePoints. His name's David Saphir, and he really recommends to everyone reconcile your books every day if you can, but
Yeah.
at least every week.
Yeah.
He was like, these people who wait
Once it
weeks
gets
and
piled
months.
Yeah.
He's like, you just have no idea what your money situation is if you're letting it go like that. So,
Right.
advice to everyone: reconcile your
Yes.
books every day if you can.
Yeah. Don't let it. I worked for a company once, and when I came in, they were like, hey, we got audited last year and we haven't done anything with our books. Here are half a dozen boxes full of receipts and things. Can you go through and enter it all and fix it all? And I was like, okay.
But you're not an accountant.
Nope. But I figured it out because that was what they needed me to do.
Trial by fire. Education of necessity. Oh, my goodness.
They didn't stay in business that long.
I can't imagine you would. I mean, that's a cornerstone to any business, wouldn't you say? Like, keeping your books straight, knowing what money's coming in, what money's going out. Because if you don't have that number, then how can you effectively run a business?
And it's another reason that I've started small and incremental. You know, you're going to learn all these things. You better learn them now while you can, while you're small, where a small error doesn't become a large problem.
Mm-hmm.
You know, where small errors can be small problems.
Well, and maybe one day your wife will get her stuff together and help you out
Maybe.
with some of that.
Maybe someday.
Maybe one of these days.
With the toddler and the infant crying.
Yeah. I mean, you know.
Sure.
That's
That
why-
sounds like a great idea.
That's why I'm hanging out with Sarah more often. I'm trying to learn.
Oh, dear. I don't know.
She had 3, and she homeschooled and ran her own business. You know.
And
I didn't
my
do any of
impression,
that very well.
She is so done with the toddler and infant phase too. So
Yeah, but here's the thing. This is what I've said to a lot of people. You know, I did all that stuff, sure, but I didn't do any of it
Right.
great at any point.
Yeah. I can do 2. Generally, my kid is taken care of, and then either my house is clean or my business is run.
Right. You pick one, but it's not going to be all of them.
No,
you
it's
know?
not. I can't do all 3, but I can get 2. What would you say have been some of your biggest achievements or successes in this journey?
I'd say it's too early to really say greatest. I would say that I
So
on
far, then.
on a whim started a business on my own, and I'm still in business. That's kind of probably the biggest.
Yeah.
And it's bringing in an income.
It's
so
bringing in revenue,
true.
and I'm getting repeat business, and the vibe I get from folks who use and talk about me has always been very positive.
That's a success.
It's a new way of me doing the same thing I've done for a long time.
Yeah.
It's just in
Well,
new light and new.
I'm gonna toot your horn a little bit. You are a master plumber. You do have a medical gas license. You are licensed to work on backflow prevention and RPZs. You've got pretty much every certification you can
Well, yeah.
in this business, which is not a small feat.
No. Not with it. I mean, with any
You
trade
know.
where you reach that master level, it's come from years of not only
Right.
experience, but also taking continuing education classes and
Yeah.
getting
Right.
certified
You
and
have to have
things.
so
it's
many
not like
hours
just
and things.
I can go, oh, I think I want to be a plumber, and then go do it. Like, you can't do that with a job.
And
like
I've held the
this.
master. I got the master license in 2013, so that wasn't anything new to me. But then the master license, the way it's set up here in Texas, is it really doesn't do anything for you other than the ability to go into business for yourself. Yes, you have to pass a rather strenuous test, and you have certain requirements to apply for that test. But the main goal there is that the state has an idea if we're going to allow people to provide this service, which can be very detrimental to health if it's done incorrectly.
Yeah.
Then we're going to require these minimums, and that's where that master comes into play. So,
Yeah.
it's 20 years of plumbing. There's still a lot I haven't seen. Anybody who's tell you they know it all, it was just a blatant lie. So, you learn more every day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's the
At
best?
Ben's parents' house the other day, I found a shower valve that in 20 years of working, I have never seen it. I sent it to the original manufacturer, and they say they don't recognize it. So,
Yeah, that's some crazy stuff right there. When you've been in the business for 20 years and a part comes across your path that you've never seen.
Or a branded part sent to the company who's been in business for over 100 years, and they don't recognize it.
Yeah, that's.
The house isn't that old. It couldn't have been that old.
Yeah, I think it was built in the 50s, 60s.
I think it was a 60 model. Yeah.
Yeah. What would you say is the best part of your job?
Flexible hours. I spent so much of my life working for the other person with these certain requirements, and it's a double-edged sword. You learn that when you clock in and when you clock out doesn't matter anymore.
Yeah.
So yeah, you can manipulate your hours to go pick up your kid from daycare or go have lunch with your wife, but at the same time, if it's 8 o'clock at night and something's got to get done,
You still got to do it.
Yep.
you're essentially always clocked in.
So would that be kind of the worst part of your job as
kinda-
well?
yeah.
Kind of the best and the worst. Yeah.
I think anybody who's in business for themselves, it's great, and it's terrible
All
because
at
of
the
those
same time.
things,
Yeah.
you know, and
Yeah.
I had to teach myself over the years, and I you know, with you, I don't know how it would work for you because there was never a photography emergency, but if somebody messaged me after a certain point at night, I had this silly, insane pressure in my own mind. Oh, I've got to answer every email that comes in, no matter what time it comes in. And eventually I was like, this is insane.
Right.
I'm always
Yeah.
working.
Yeah.
I'm never getting any downtime, or I'm never getting even 5-minute break because there's all these things you have to answer all the time. And so I've established, okay, I'm not going to start answering emails until this point in the morning, and I'm going to stop after this point in the evening, and it can be taken care of tomorrow. Now, for you, somebody may call you at 8 o'clock at night and go, I have a busted water pipe and my house is flooding.
Yeah,
And you have to jump in the car
we're
and
on,
go.
we're on our way. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
And I drew an arbitrary line there. No one's going to give you an emergency email. You know, nobody's
Yeah,
going
yeah,
to
yeah.
send you an email saying, "Hey,
A phone
I'm
call.
flooding right now."
Yeah.
You know, so
Yeah,
that
yeah.
can cast off till the next day.
right.
And this is family time. But
So-
if someone's willing to call you at that particular time of hour,
Help me.
panicking, and it's back to the honest nature of the work.
Yeah.
You know, it's they're in a bind. Go take care of it. You know,
If,
when you
if
go
you
home,
were in that situation, you would want somebody to get out there as soon as
Exactly.
possible.
Yeah.
You know, you're going to do the same.
And I'm sure there's a bit of gratification too in knowing I'm helping someone,
right.
you know, save their house in a sense, especially if it's a flooding
Right.
issue, you know.
Right.
And even if it's not that, even if it's as simple as I don't have any running water, the water's turned off, you know, and you get there and they have an infant or they have a kid,
Right.
you know, when you leave, they're taking a bath, you know, they're cleaning the bottles, they're doing what needs to be done,
Right.
you know.
Yeah.
'Cause it seems like you're superficial, like, you know, it's just
You
your
don't
plumbing,
realize
but-
what a luxury running water is until you
Clean
don't
water, right?
have it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that is like,
Yeah.
that's just, you know, you take it for granted. You know, we have some issues with our municipality out where we live, where there's constantly a boil water nose, it seems like, or there's an issue where they've had to shut the water off for everybody for a while they work on a breakage somewhere. And, you know, never having had to deal with that when we lived in the city. And so it's like, I keep bottled water on hand now because you just never know at what point they're going to turn it off and you're going to have to wait.
And the effect of plumbing as a whole on modern civilization, you know, like cities as we know them don't exist without
Without it.
something as simple as plumbing.
I
And
mean-
then nowadays, like particularly right now, you talk about a pandemic, what's the number one thing people are telling you to do constantly?
Wash your
Wash your
hands.
hands.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I think there was like a historical thing I watched a while back about how when plumbing became a societal norm, like in ancient Greece and different things, that's when they noticed the drop off in these mass illnesses
Right.
and pandemics, basically, is
Right.
because people were being more clean. And
Yeah.
so plumbing is a big part of that. And especially in the world we live in now, I can
Right.
imagine that's even more important than it's been. Well, we've taken it for granted is what's happened.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
anyway.
People don't think about
so
it that much.
I
But
think we've kind of gotten off track there, but
all
we'll
right.
take it back around.
what would you say? Would you say you have any advice for anybody else who's starting their own business or who's struggling with running a business? Would you?
I don't know about struggling to run a business because I haven't had enough experience running my own business to really tell anyone. But when it comes to starting one, is just do it. Like
Just do it, like
it is
Nike says.
straight up Nike.
And starting small. That's kind of been your running theme this whole conversation.
Right.
Start
Yeah.
small, grow as you.
The
can
goal
it-
is to have enough people and enough people on hand that they're working for themselves in a sense. They have got their initiative. They're doing well. They're building their relationships, and we're taking care of the plumbing needs to a larger section of population. But the path to get to that goal is going to be a slow and steady march uphill, and I think a lot of people get overweighted by everything that they need to put in place before they start. And the more you think about it, the more you're going to need, and you're never going to start. At some
So they
point, you're going to have
paralyze
to make do
themselves,
with what
yeah.
you have
Yeah.
and make it work.
Do it. Just do it.
Just get it.
I mean, that's great advice, really, for anybody getting going. And even when they're struggling, just keep moving forward as much as you can. you
And
know.
we've made failure such a bad thing.
Yeah.
Like,
Failure teaches you a lot.
yeah,
It does.
everything that you are good at, you failed at some point.
Mm-hmm.
Or you're not good at it. You
Right.
didn't have to repeat it. You didn't have to do it again. You didn't have to pay attention. You didn't have to focus because you just got it the first time.
Yeah. People are always like, well, you just take the most beautiful pictures. You should, let me pull out some stuff I took when I was a kid and when I started taking pictures and doing photography.
Or not to mention the
me show you how
9
terrible they
pictures
were.
between those two that you saw that I deleted.
Yeah.
That you never even
That you
saw.
never saw.
Yeah.
Well, in the digital age, but I
Right.
have a whole slew of film proof
Right.
of how
Right.
terrible my photography used to be. So, because we're that old,
Right.
But yeah, nobody starts out great. I think. I mean, and if they do, they've got some sort of touched by the heavens sort of gift that is so rare.
Right.
Right.
Right. It's not the
So,
norm.
failure,
by
I
any
think,
way it means.
teaches you a lot. I mean, it's people are like, oh, Standpipe, you guys have been so successful, and it's like, well, because we did 10 other businesses before we did that one that were tremendous failures. Like
Right.
this is not some, lightning in a bottle situation. I mean, and even to some extent, you could even go back and look at the history of Standpipe and go, it was a failure here and there, and some
Maybe
hiccups.
not a
and-
failure. Maybe not quite so successful as it
Well,
is now. But
just some stumbling blocks that you have to get over. And so I
Right.
feel like, in any business, starting small, doing what you can, just doing it.
And even
all
the
good advice.
definitions are so arbitrary. I mean, what's success and what's failure?
Exactly.
Did you not reach X amount of revenue over a certain given time with this super detailed business plan you had to begin with? Therefore, it's a failure.
Yeah.
I mean, are you paying your bills?
Yeah.
Are you happy?
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
maybe you're struggling right now, but you see a light. You see a way to keep going. That's still successful. Is
celebrate
it
the small things too. Don't
I feel like
get yourself so bogged
because
down.
social media is such a double-edged sword. In some ways it's so great for its accessibility. You can have this huge market and this audience that you would never have had before, but at the same time there's this comparison thing that happens
Right.
because everybody's posting all these
Right.
great things. My business did this and my life is this.
You only see the good,
and you only see the good things, and that's not really accurate.
It's a slideshow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the highlight reel,
Right.
So I feel
Right.
like comparison is the thief of joy, but it's also the thief of your own success if you constantly look at other places and
Right.
compare
It's
yourself.
the 21st century keeping up with the Joneses. Like, did you see what they
Yeah,
got?
yeah.
Did you see what they're doing?
Right.
But they're only showing you what they want to be shown.
What was the best advice you got from someone when you were starting out that you've utilized or has stuck in your mind?
I've been so stubborn, man. I probably should have taken more advice. Honestly, if I had a regret, it's that I didn't take other people's advice. Like, no, I have an idea, and I'm going to stick to it. This is what I'm going to do.
So being more flexible, maybe?
Yeah, probably would be. I've always prided myself on the ability to change what's going on in the instant to the input that I'm receiving. Like, if I'm in a situation, I'm trying to do this, but everything is showing me this is not working, then it's time to stop, punt, see what's going on, adjust on the fly, and keep going. And recognize that pattern and then progress. Don't keep shoving that square peg in a round hole. It's not gonna work. It's never gonna work.
What's the future look like for Ellis Plumbing?
Yeah.
Multiple trucks, multiple guys, and everybody happy, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the goal we're trying to work
Right,
for here.
right.
Well, Steve, why don't you tell everybody where they can find you on social media?
Ellis Plumbing Company on Facebook, and there's also ellis-plumbing.com. Also Ellis Plumbing Company on Instagram. We try to post pictures of just some cool projects or cool things that we've seen or done, and just straight up Google.
And your phone number is, in case somebody has a plumbing emergency.
That would be 936-875-4345.
And I will tell everybody that if anyone is looking for a remodel or that new cool modern like the exposed copper plumbing and the real that is kind of his forte is everything. He can make it look really nice.
I do know that when we go to redo our bathroom, I'm going to be hiring him to do all the new stuff.
He
so.
does it all the time. You just most of the time it's in a wall and you can't see it. But now that's kind of coming into style. Is that you want to see it?
Well,
You can
guys,
make
if
it look
you
really good.
if you guys need any plumbing, have any plumbing issues, give Ellis Plumbing a call. I think that's going to wrap us up for today. Thank you guys for joining us. I am so interested to hear what everybody's response is to today's interview. Tell each other your stories. Send us yours. Thanks, Steve, for sharing your journey with us.
Thanks for having me.
If you'd like to be a guest on our podcast, please contact us at our website, www.PaynePoints.com. And you can find us on social media at PaynePoints in all variations. Just check us out on our website. There's all kinds of links, and you can listen to all our older podcasts. I can't talk today, so I think we're going to stop there in case I trip over my tongue anymore. But thanks for listening, guys. Thanks for being here, and we'll catch you next time.
Have a good one.
Bye.